Hey everybody, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of the MonkeyBoy Presents the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, and today I'm very happy to bring you issue number 79, Orion, and this is yet another new god, actually the last new god in the collection, unfortunately. I'm a big fan of these characters, created of course by the legendary Jack Kirby, who also created the last character we just covered, Etrigan the Demon there. For those of you who are aware of this guy, chances are you know him from the old Superman, the animated series cartoon show, where he appeared on multiple episodes. He also appeared on episodes of Justice League Unlimited and the Justice League animated series, and I'm sure he's been in other things that I am unaware of. So he's out there. For those of you who are not aware of this character, that's why we have the magazine, which is what we'll cover first, and it'll tell you everything you need to know about Orion here, the hero of New Genesis, and then we'll take a look at the figure itself, covering the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's a really, really nice figure. I'm a big fan of this one, highly detailed, can't wait to show it to you. Please sit back, relax, and enjoy. Issue number 79 of the DC Comics Superhero Collection by Eaglemoss, Orion. First up, the character section. Where we meet Orion, a member of an alien race known as the New Gods, a near-immortal and superpowered race of beings. And the New Gods live on two planets, the evil planet of Apocalypse and the benevolent and beautiful planet of New Genesis. The two planets had been at war with one another for decades and saw losses on both sides, including the greatest general of New Genesis's wife, a woman named Avia. Tired of the violence and desperate for a way to bring an end to the war, Isaiah went on a self-imposed walkabout, hoping to discover a way to bring peace. To his astonishment, Isaiah was answered by the Source, the creator of the New Gods and potentially the entire universe. Isaiah, now calling himself Highfather, arranged a meeting with Darkseid where the two agreed upon a peace treaty. This treaty decreed that the two would trade sons. Darkseid would give his son Orion over to Highfather, and Highfather would give his son, scot-free, over to Granny Goodness and Darkseid. Due to his upbringing and his lineage, Orion proved to be an extremely violent and temperamental child. However, Highfather saw some of himself in the boy, and taught the boy how to find inner peace and calm his temper. Orion was also given a device known as a Mother Box, a sentient supercomputer that also helped mask his apocalyptian features. As his powers increased along with his ability to control himself, he became friends with many of the other New Gods, including his best friend, Lightray. As a defender of New Genesis, Orion has tangled with many different foes of Apocalypse, including his older half-brother, the villain known as Kalibak. Orion and his friend Lightray have also teamed up with many other DC heroes, and were even made honorary members of the Justice League of America. Unwilling to let his son go, Highfather reached into the Source Wall and literally pulled Orion back from death. resurrected, Darkseid acquired the anti-life equation, and it was up to Orion to stop him, literally beating his father to death in gladiatorial combat. After learning that the new gods were being killed off one by one, Orion joined his stepbrother Mr. Miracle and his friend Superman, traveling the universe in an effort to discover who the assassin was, and were shocked to learn that it was the living embodiment of the Source itself. Next, we look at a couple of Orion's classic stories. First, we look at Jack Kirby's Fourth World Omnibus. Written and illustrated by the legendary Jack Kirby, this collects all of his Fourth World tales into one volume, and he did something groundbreaking at the time. He was writing 4 different titles that had an interlocked story. Everything was tied together, and this collects all of those tales. It gives us not only Orion's origin, but also the origins of Darkseid, Apocalypse, New Genesis, High Father, all of the New God characters. It is brilliant and definitely worth picking up. We also have Orion, the Gates of Apocalypse. And this was Orion's first ever self-titled comic book where he appeared solo, and it was a story that involved Darkseid finally finding the anti-life equation and using it to take over the universe, but Orion stands in his way, stops him ultimately by defeating him in gladiatorial combat, and then Orion takes the throne of Apocalypse. It's a very dark, somewhat disturbing, and very bittersweet type of story that shows how sometimes power can even corrupt the greatest of us. Orion's Friends and Foes features his biological father, Darkseid, his older half-brother, Kalibak, and his friend, New God, Lightray. Finally, the iconography section takes a more in-depth look at some of the New God's technology. It looks more closely at a mother box, a type of handheld, sentient supercomputer that most New Gods carry. Mother boxes can also produce boom tubes, interdimensional gateways that allow the owner of the mother box to travel between worlds. Scott-Free, Orion's stepbrother, also known as Mr. Miracle, incorporates a device that allows him to use multiple mother boxes, giving him the ability to escape from almost anything. Although superpowered, the New Gods do use vehicles as well, like the Forever People and their Super Cycle. It gives a closer look at the Astro Harness that Orion uses. We also meet the New God scientist Metron, who built a device more powerful than any mother box, allowing him to travel not just between worlds, but dimensions and time, known as the Mobius Chair. Here we have Orion. And man, I think this figure is really, really cool. I am a fan of Jack Kirby, as I've said many, many times, like in the last issue with Etrigan the Demon. I love his stuff. I think his character designs are outstanding. I think his stories are the thing of legend. And I love all the New God characters. Their designs are just so unique and so cool, and it's really neat having more than one now with Barda and with Mr. Miracle, and even Darkseid. When you have them all together, you can see the aesthetic between them all. You can tell they're all from the same universe, the same idea. And Orion here, I think, is just outstanding. All the detail on him, not just in his physical sculpt, like his body, his musculature and everything, but in his Astro Harness. I think it's great. There's all kinds of gizmos and gadgets and designs and levers, and he has the little blaster attachment right there, and the other side has the mother box on it, and I just think it's great. All the sculpt on this guy is outstanding. If you saw my last review of Etrigan, I thought he could have been a regular edition figure, and Orion here is partially the reason for that. I think he's really, really nice. He's not one of the best necessarily, but he's very close. He's also cool because you can see he's hovering with his Astro harness, which is the only other character. I guess Jon Stewart kind of was, but he had that green energy. But the only other one, this reminds me more, I should say, of Adam Strange with his rocket pack. But I love this character. I love this figure. I think it's a great way to close out the New God characters for this line. It's unfortunate we only have the 4. But I like him overall. There are some problems that I'll address here in the next section in just a moment. Orion hovers above the classic DC logo, and the underside of the base features his name and serial number. And so you can get some size and scale, here he is next to his actual father, Darkseid, alongside his fellow New Gods, Mr. Miracle and Big Barda, and a big group shot with some members of the Justice League he's fought alongside. Orion is a really great figure, in my humble opinion. I really like this guy. I'm partial to the Kirby stuff, I'm partial to the New Gods, but I really like a lot of things about this figure. Is he perfect? No, there are some things that are flawed with him, but it is minor when you take it all into account. We'll begin as always with the good, which definitely outweighs the bad on this character. The sculpt is outstanding, the paint, the wash, the shading and shadowing. I love the pose. It's classic Kirby. His Astro harness is great, and it needed to be there. You can see even the stirrups of the Astro harness where his feet fit in are detailed and molded so nicely. Also the fact that he's hovering, gliding over the logo with those clear plastic pieces to give that impression, I think is just a fantastic touch instead of having it sit right on top of that base. You can see the paint is very clean for the most part. Love the white around the boots, the reds, the blues, they're all really nice. A great wash on him to show off every little bit of the sculpt. His musculature is outstanding, not to mention the harness itself, which is just great. The gold metal fleck paint all over it is really nice. The gauges on the center, though, have some little green highlights here and there, which I think are really, again, a great touch. And there is so much going on with the sculpt of this harness. It's straight off the comic page for the most part. He has that blaster piece near his left hand. I love that the handlebars are in his grip. You can see fingers are in triggers and everything. There are symbols all over it, little bits and pieces. It's fantastic sculpt. Finally, his head sculpt is nice. Unfortunately, it's not flawless, but what is there is really, really good. I love his grimacing face, that his teeth are gritted. The flesh tone is really nice. The helmet is great for the most part. You can obviously see there are some issues I have with the helmet, but it's really nice the way it's sculpted. That yellow line is hand-painted and raised off the sculpt. I think the eyes are decent, and I love that he does have the Orion symbol in the center of the forehead, that eclipsing sun. It's a nice head sculpt. Which brings us to the bad. Minor things first. There's some bleeding on my figure, especially on the back around his briefs. There's some pretty heavy bleed, but handcrafted figure. Also, there are some chips in the paint, especially on the back of the left leg, but you don't notice it when he is facing you. So again, not such a big deal. My biggest issue has to do with the horns on the helmet. As I'm sure you noticed, they are very uneven, very sloppily sculpted, and believe it or not, this was the nicer of the two figures I had to choose from. The other one had one broken horn and one completely bent horn. So, big issue with this. I'm hoping there are other ones out there that are nicer than this one, because if they're all like this, that's pretty disappointing. And finally, the ugly. It goes without saying, you gotta watch the horns on the helmet. They are easy to break, easy to bend, and if you can check before you purchase, please do so. Also, you want to watch the base of the figure. Those translucent plastic pieces that give him the illusion that he's gliding over the surface are, of course, only plastic. If he falls, he'll probably snap at the base very easily. Overall, I really like this figure a lot. I definitely recommend him if you're a fan of the New Gods. If you're a fan of Kirby's work, you know this guy. He's basically the Superman of New Genesis, in a sense. He's awesome. I love having him with Darkseid. It's cool to finally have father and son, and I think for the most part, he's a very, very impressive figure. He's not quite Hawkman, not quite that level, but he is very, very close. He is borderline special edition, I think. If he had been, again, a bigger figure, he could have easily passed for a special edition, but it's really cool having another New God. I wish there were more. It's too bad we only get these 4. If you're a fan, you owe it to yourself to pick him up and add it to your collection just to have all the New Gods. If you're not a fan, I think it'd be pretty easy to skip him over, although he is very unique. really aesthetically pleasing, and he does break up the shelf quite a bit. I'm a really big fan of Orion, and I hope you have been a fan of this review of Orion. Please stay tuned for a quick teaser trailer of the next issue in the series, number 80, Another Hero. I know, another hero. I promise we're going to get back to villains eventually, though. There will be more, but we have a hero coming up. He is a member of the Justice Society of America. There have been a couple different incarnations of the character. We're getting the newest one. He's great. He's brilliant. He's a really nice figure, so please stay tuned for that quick teaser. As always, I am your host, the Monkey Boy, aka Jay to his friends. Thanks for watching.